Hello. Welcome back to Novelitic. My name is Drew, and today we got ourselves a mid-year book freakout tag. This is my first time doing this tag, and I'm actually really excited. It also made me think a lot about some of my choices, but without further ado, let's get into the first question. The first question is, what is the best book that you have read thus far in 2021? So I have a cheat answer and then I have a real answer. My cheat answer is The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nevo. I reread this book, I think 3 times this year. I reread it once physically and then I listened to it via audio twice, and my love for this book has grown so much. And it was one of my favorite books last year, but rereading it just totally solidified everything. And even through like my ratings, like going through Copilot and everything, this got the highest. But the other book that scored next, like pretty darn close, was This Is How You Lose the Time War. I really loved this book. I was so surprised by it, and I normally am not a fan of sci-fi, but actually no, that's a lie. I'm starting to get into sci-fi, but this book, it was so good. I'm gonna insert a clip right here of my reaction to it in a previous video where I reviewed it. Is that it is a genre-bending cacophony of words whose dissonance creates like this masterful symphony. Like, I don't know how else to say it. This next question is, what is the best sequel that you've read? One of my goals for this year was to finish more series, and guess what? I've started more and barely read more. But I do have 2 answers for this. First one is The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was the first book I read of the year. I was very behind on Tolkien Along, and I had to finish this in order to complete the series. So yes, I completed 1 series, but did I go any further anymore? No. But another one, which I'm not sure if it's technically, it's more of a companion novel, and that is Nevo's When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, which is a companion novel, or I'm sorry, a companion novella to The Empress of Salt and Fortune. So the next question is, what is a new release that you want to read but have yet to? Which is Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart. I've been waiting for this to come into my hands. I was able to access it through ebook, but I was like, no, I need to read this as a physical copy. So yeah, cannot wait. The next question is, what is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And I have 2 for this. The first book is Blackout, which is a series of 6 intertwined stories by some of my favorite authors, Angie Thomas, Nick Stone. The concept of it sounds amazing, and of course the authors are incredible. And the second book is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I just read a couple months ago The House in the Cerulean Sea, and that was such a cute book, and I feel like this next book will have the same sort of whimsy. And honestly, that's kind of whimsy I need in my life. So yeah, and this one is following a person who makes a deal like with like the devil, or he's about to die, or he did die and he's in this like purgatory. That's all I know. That's all I want to know, and can't wait. This next book is my biggest disappointment. And I'm very sad to say that it was The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. I've mentioned Nevo a lot already, and I just did not really care for this book. This was one of my most anticipated releases. It was a 5-star prediction, and it barely scraped in at a 3-star. And it's hard to unpack my thoughts for this. I definitely have a lot, and that will come up in my wrap-up, but I don't think it was at the fault of the author. Like, the writing was still beautiful. Like, it still encompassed Nevo's writing style, which I absolutely love, but there's just something about it I didn't like. At first I thought it was because the only thing keeping me going was the fact that it was a retelling, but it just like, I didn't like The Great Gatsby to begin with. So maybe that's why, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of unpacking to do, but yeah, this so far was my biggest disappointment. The next is my biggest surprise, and that was, once again, This Is How You Lose the Time War. And when I went into this, it was more so, okay, it had the word time in it, so okay, let's use it for a buzzwordathon. It was only 200 pages. I'm introducing myself to sci-fi, but you heard my words before. You heard Past Drew and what Past Drew had to say. It was just so good, and the fact that it was also a romance, and as someone who, not really about romance, way to go. Biggest surprise. The next is favorite new author, and I don't know if this is really, no, it's not cheating. I'm twisting it to how I interpret this. So my new favorite author is Nevo. I really believe you have to read multiple works from someone before you establish them as a new favorite author. And all-time favorite book, enjoyed this immensely. And this particular book, even though I didn't care for the actual story, I loved her writing style, and I don't think that was necessarily her fault. So yeah, Nevo, I feel like I've definitely established that. Nevo is now an auto-buy author, no matter what. The next is new Fictional Crush. This one's a hard one. I don't generally get crushes on my book characters. I mean, Mr. Darcy will always hold a special place in my heart, but I mean, anyway. But if I had to choose, I would say Yuki Yamamoto from Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. So I have weird feelings about this, and like this is why I'm very like I love Yuki's messages, I love Yuki's radio show, I like what Yuki stands for. However, she's kind of a bit of a manic pixie dream girl, and again, I have thoughts about that. But if I had to choose a fictional crush, I really do think I would get a crush on Yuki. The next is your newest favorite character, and that would have to be Jana. I believe that's how you say her name, Jana from The Raven and the Reindeer, which is a Snow Queen retelling. Oh my gosh, she's such a badass. She's just so cool. The story itself took this particular character, she is the bandit from the original, and gave this character life. And ooh, you know, maybe this could be a new fictional crush too. Having a lot of thoughts. But anyway, Jana was super cool. Loved that character so much. And also another favorite character, it's not really new, but like was solidified in The Return of the King. I do like me a good old, I like Sam. But I digress. The next is a book that made you cry. Now, I rarely cry like in movies and books. That's just how I am. I'm apparently ice-hearted, but whatever. But I was pretty darn close to tears after reading Soul Lanterns. I will link my review up above. I received an ARC of this, and it discusses people's stories after the bombing of Hiroshima, like 20 years later, I believe it was. It's been a while since I read it. It was just very sad hearing some of these stories from these people, and the fact that these were only a few of the many people who have been impacted by that bombing. So, Soul Lanterns by Shaw Kuski. The next one is a book that made you happy. The Empress of Salt and Fortune. Apparently I just really love this book, and I really want everyone to read it. But anyway, with this book, when I reread it audibly, I was in a car ride and I listened to it on the way to my destination and my way back home from my destination, and it just I just smiled. I smiled the whole freaking time, and listening to it was a totally different experience, which just a fair warning, if you're going to listen to it audibly, you either need to read it physically first or follow along, because that really the only reason why I think I enjoyed the audiobook was because I knew where the page breaks were. The structure of this and the page breaks are critical to our understanding of the story and the layout of the story. So that, just keep that in mind. Yeah, after listening to it audibly, like I just could not stop smiling. And I don't think a book has ever made me that happy before. The next book is the most beautiful book that you bought or received this year. And I'm not counting my subscription boxes because I feel like that's like I'm cheating because they are meant to be aesthetically pleasing. But with that in mind, I chose my copy of Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. It's a bit of a chunky guy, but it's just so pretty. It has the foiling, all the floral, it has the faces of the different sisters, and I just, it has everything I really like in a cover. So, and lastly, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? A lot. But in terms of priorities, there are a few I really want to hold myself accountable for. The first being Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. I read Stamped, the remixed version by Jason Reynolds, and I was astounded by the information in there, and I really wanted to dive into the original text. I plan on reading this actually this summer. I tried starting it via ebook, and I was just like, no, I need a physical copy to annotate, reflect, and really like take in the side of history that we don't learn about in school. The next book I would like to read before the end of the year is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, and by extension the entire trilogy. I feel like I will really like Hobb's writing. The premise sounds fascinating, and the other series within this like realm sound fascinating, so I need to get on that. And this is totally like a booktube made me do it. Elderling Long, thanks. But I'm super excited for this. And last, I need to finish the Game of Thrones series. I read the first book like maybe 2 years ago and I haven't continued since, and I'm refusing to watch the TV show until I finish reading. Even though the, you know, series, the book series isn't finished, but whatever. I need to finally finish that and then return the books to my dad because they are not my books. All right, so that concludes this year's mid-year book freakout tag 2021. Thank you again for watching. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. Until next time, bye.